Hey guys, tonight we're slipping into silk stockings, bowing too low, and waking up way too early, for we're diving into what it was really like to be a royal servant during the Tudor dynasty. Spoiler alert, you probably wouldn't survive the first day. Forget Downton Abbey. This isn't a drama where servants glide through candlelit halls with silver trays. This is Henry VIII's court, where the floors are cold, the schedule's brutal, and your boss might literally send you to the tower if you wrinkle his sleeve. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, drop a comment and let me know what city you're in and what time it is right now. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You wake up before the cockerel. Not with the cockerel, asterisk before star. Because by the time the bird lets out its annoying war cry, you're already dressed in heavy wool, dragging yourself through the dark stone halls of Hampton Court Palace. You're not a guest here. You're the help. More specifically, you're a royal manservant to the Tudor court. Congratulations. Your first task today, warming the king's seat. Literally. Someone decided the monarch's rear deserves a toasty welcome, and lucky you. Asterisk your asterisk the designated cushion preheater. You plop yourself down on the throne while guards eye you like you might be plotting treason with your buttocks. And that's just the opening act. Next comes linen inspection, where you and a few other unlucky souls examine Henry's underclothes for signs of divine disfavor. One suspicious stain and boom, someone's making an offering to the local apothecary. Historians still argue whether this kind of superstition counted as medical protocol or just pure courtly paranoia. Then there's the breakfast routine. It's not your breakfast, of course. You'll be lucky to swipe a crust off someone's plate. Your job is to stand silently near the king as he eats, just in case he gestures for something. And you'd better know what he wants before he gestures. It's a weird psychic dance. One wrong move, and you're not just fired, you're disgraced. People have disappeared for less. But here's the strangest part. You don't even hate the work itself. The uniforms are itchy, sure, and the hours are soul-crushing. But it's the unpredictability that really messes with you. One day you're a background character. The next, the king asks for your opinion on whether to annul his marriage. You do find small joys. A passing smile from a lady-in-waiting. The warmth of a hallway fire you're not technically allowed to stand near. And when the court musicians rehearse, you get a front row seat, behind a curtain, of course. Still, there's no doubt. This place is not for the faint of heart. You may wear silk over your shoulder, but your dignity's wearing burlap. You try to tell yourself you're part of something historic. After all, not everyone gets to see the inner workings of monarchy, even if they're scrubbing its underbelly. But as you crawl into your thin straw mattress hours before midnight, sore in places you didn't know could hurt, you start to wonder. Maybe being a stable boy wouldn't have been so bad. You know that feeling when you're standing way too close to a bonfire, and your face is burning, but you don't want to move because someone important is watching? Yeah, that's your whole life now. Serving the Tudors means being permanently about 3 feet from danger. Not swords or assassins, though there's always a chance of those too, but something far more terrifying, court politics. At first glance, it all seems theatrical. You help the king dress. You hand him his goblet during feast days. You even whisper when it's time to bring in the lute players. Everything is carefully choreographed. You're a minor actor in a never-ending royal play. But what no one tells you is that every step of that performance is booby-trapped. One too long pause while handing over a glove? You might be discourteous. Accept a coin slipped into your hand from a visiting duke? You're now suspected of bribery. Speak when not spoken to. Well, hope you didn't like your kneecaps. Being close to the monarch comes with what they call honor, but what it really means is surveillance. Not from above, but from all around. Every other servant, courtier, and guard is watching you like they're auditioning for the role of most loyal informant. And the worst part? You might start watching yourself too. You learn quickly to censor your own thoughts. When the king's advisors argue over matters of war or marriage or, heaven help us, religion, you go full marble statue. Your face must remain as blank as the chapel walls. You've got opinions, sure, But having an opinion is a luxury only the aristocracy can afford. Take the story of Thomas, one of the older servants in the privy chamber. He once sneezed during a tense conversation between Henry VIII and his third wife, Jane Seymour. Not a loud sneeze, mind you. Just a polite, nose-crinkling little achoo. The room went silent. Henry stared. Thomas bowed and apologized profusely, and he wasn't seen again for 4 weeks. When he returned, his hair had gone gray. To this day, people aren't sure whether he was punished, reassigned, or just extremely sick. But nobody asked. And yet, despite the fear, there's something seductive about being this close to power. You see everything. The king's temper, his tenderness, his secrets. You hold a corner of the royal towel as he bathes, and for a moment, it feels like you matter. But don't be fooled. That proximity, it's not affection. It's utility. You're not a friend. You're a cog in a gold-plated machine. The minute you misfire, you're removed and replaced, sometimes without so much as a goodbye. And if you think your years of faithful service will be remembered in ballads, let's just say, they write songs about kings, not the guys who laced up their shoes. Historians still argue about whether royal servants had true political influence or were just expendable bodies in fine livery. Some claim certain gentlemen of the chamber could sway decisions behind closed doors. Others believe that idea is just romantic nonsense. You try not to think about it too hard, because your job isn't to analyze history. Your job is to carry the candle, fetch the parchment, and smile without smiling too much. And as you stand silently behind the velvet curtain during tonight's council meeting, hearing words like rebellion, taxation, papal threat, you think to yourself, I miss being a peasant, Let's be clear, no one warned you about this part. You thought the worst thing would be polishing goblets or being yelled at for lukewarm soup. But no. One morning, a senior servant quietly hands you a folded cloth and says, "Report to the privy room. His Majesty requires assistance." Oh, you don't serve the king, you wipe him. Congratulations, you've officially been promoted to groom of the stool. The title sounds ridiculous, but don't laugh. Not here. Because within the surreal logic of Tudor England, this job is prestigious. You're one of the king's most trusted attendants. You're not just handling his business, you're guarding it, recording it, possibly even advising him while he's doing it. It's weird. It's awkward. It's kind of powerful. Each morning, you bring a bowl of water, linen towels, and a velvet-covered stool with a hole in the center, basically a royal toilet chair. You assist the king as he settles in, which is its own delicate operation. No sudden moves. No eye contact unless he allows it. And above all, never wrinkle the towel. Once he's seated, there's usually some small talk. Sometimes about state affairs. Sometimes about last night's roast lamb. And sometimes, just silenced out of very loud, echoing silence. And here's the kicker. You're expected to keep a detailed record. Of everything. Timing. Frequency. Texture. Smell. It's not just about hygiene. This is medical intelligence. Because back then, people believed bodily waste revealed everything from mood to divine favor. To be fair, history isn't 100% aligned on how involved grooms of the stool really were. Some accounts say you merely stood ready. Others suggest a far more hands-on relationship. Academics still debate the exact procedures, but let's just say, you get close. Too close. And yet, strangely, you can't help noticing how this bizarre job gives you access no one else has. Think about it. Who else gets private time with the king every day? Who else gets to see him at his most unguarded, most human, bowel-focused? You've seen ministers tremble in front of the king. Ambassadors kneel for hours waiting for an audience. And here you are, holding a towel while Henry VIII debates the Protestant Reformation with his trousers around his ankles. It's absurd. But it's also kind of intoxicating. Still, the stakes are higher than you'd think. A misstep during this process can have consequences. There was that young groom who once forgot to warm the towel in winter. The king caught a chill, blamed him, and the poor lad was reassigned to cleaning fireplaces in Berwick Castle. That's basically being banished to the Arctic. And remember, you can't talk about any of this. Not even a whisper. The privy chamber is sacred space. Gossip, even accidental, can destroy you. One misplaced joke in the kitchens, and suddenly you're being questioned by the Lord Chamberlain, with the kind of smile that makes you sweat through 3 layers of linen. You begin to understand something important. In this court, power and humiliation live side by side. You serve at the pleasure of the king, and that includes his digestion. At night, when you finally remove the velvet seat and close the chamber doors, you try not to think about what tomorrow's duty will bring. You try not to think at all, because thinking too much about your life right now might just make you cry. It's 2:46 a.m. You know this because you've been awake for the last 4 hours, watching a candle burn down beside the king's chamber door, just in case he needs anything. Water, a different pillow, someone to yell at because he dreamed of betrayal. Sleep? That's for people who don't live 3 feet from unpredictable power. Welcome to the Tudor royal household, where the job of a manservant never actually ends. It just loops like a bad lute melody. You think you can sneak a nap on a velvet bench during afternoon court? Think again, because in this palace, dozing off is dangerous. One footman once shut his eyes for 30 seconds near the chapel. He woke up assigned to latrine duty at the northern border for a full season. People said it was a learning experience. He said it was mostly rats. You learn quickly that your senses must stay razor sharp. If the king twitches, you notice. If the queen sighs, you respond. If a nobleman sneezes the wrong way, you pretend you didn't hear it because he outranks you. But you? Heaven forbid you sneeze during royal prayers. That might be interpreted as mocking God himself. There was one lad, young, freckled, maybe too clever for his own good, who accidentally hiccuped during a moment of silence after someone read from the Psalms. No one laughed. No one moved. The next day, his uniform was gone from the washroom. People still whisper his name like he died in battle. You find that you're constantly calculating how much presence is too much. Stand too far from the king, and you're inattentive. Stand too close, and you're suspicious. Walk too quickly, you're impolite. Walk too slowly, you're lazy. Speak clearly, and you're arrogant. Speak quietly, and you're hiding something. There is no correct way to exist here, only ways to not get noticed. You become excellent at being invisible, but alert, like a very well-dressed ghost. But what's truly maddening is the timing. The king doesn't live on a schedule. If he wants grapes at 3 a.m., you fetch them. If he wants to go hawking at dawn, you're already holding the falcon. If he wakes up with a nightmare and needs a new candle, you sprint like your life depends on it. Because it just might. Some monarchs might be gentle in the early morning. Henry VIII? Not so much. Historians still debate how volatile he truly was behind closed doors, but those of us who serve the doors know the truth. Sometimes he wakes up singing, and sometimes he wakes up yelling about Protestant spies in the pantry. You've learned to live in a state of permanent readiness. You dream of bells, because in real life, bells signal emergencies. A ring in the night could mean the king fell out of bed, or wants poetry, or thinks he saw a ghost and needs you to investigate. You adapt by becoming a nocturnal creature. You steal naps in window alcoves. You eat leftover tarts while walking. Your eyes go red. Your brain starts humming from lack of rest. And still, when someone whispers, His Majesty stirs, you jolt to attention like a hunting hound. And the worst part? You start to think this is normal. You find comfort in the rhythm. You begin to enjoy the predictability of the chaos. Until the day comes when your knees buckle during a long sermon. You collapse, just briefly. And when you wake up, someone is already replacing your post. No one meets your eyes. No one asks if you're all right, that you're not punished. You're just removed. And that, somehow, is worse. You've been in the room when secrets are whispered. Not the gossip over ale kind, real secrets. Treason, betrayal, confessions that hang heavy in the air like fog off the Thames. And yet, you are not allowed to remember any of it. That's the rule. Or rather, the unspoken expectation. You hear nothing, see nothing, remember nothing. You're a royal servant in Tudor England. Not a man, not a witness, but a piece of the furniture. A candlestand with ears. It begins with small things. You notice a noble slip a note into a lady's prayer book. You pretend it didn't happen. You overhear the king muttering about Spain and regretting the alliance. You fold that thought like laundry and shove it into the back of your brain. Tight, but the moments build. You're cleaning near the window one afternoon when Queen Catherine walks past, pale and shaking. A few minutes later, the king orders a private audience with his advisors. Voices are raised. Latin is spoken. You keep sweeping, even though your hand has stopped moving. That night, you're asked to deliver a sealed message to the archbishop. You say nothing, not to the guard, not to your bunkmate, not even to the mirror, because even wondering too loudly can be dangerous. The Tudor court is a spiderweb spun from whispers. Everyone's connected. Everyone's listening. And you? You're dangling somewhere in the middle, close enough to feel the vibrations, too far to know what's safe. It's exhausting. You carry invisible weights in your pockets, in your chest, in your tongue. Every conversation becomes a minefield of things you could say, but don't. Every smile hides a scream. And then there are the people who test you. Once, Lord Norfolk asked you casually, "Did you hear what the king said after the Spanish ambassador left yesterday?" You blinked, bowed, said, "His Majesty's voice was not for my ears, my lord." He smiled, but not the good kind. You learned a valuable lesson that day. Sometimes the most dangerous questions come dressed as harmless ones. And sometimes silence is the only armor you have. Still, the longer you're silent, the more your memory shifts. Was it Lady and who slipped the note? Or was it Lady Jane? Did the king mention a war or a wedding? Some memories fade, others fester. Late at night, lying on your scratchy cot, you replay the day's events in your head. You try to organize them like books on a shelf, but they keep falling, pages torn, titles blurred. Historians often argue how much power royal servants really had. Some say they were mere shadows. Others claim they were the eyes and ears of the crown, shaping politics from behind the curtain. You wouldn't know. Or rather, you pretend not to know. You do remember one thing clearly. The day Master Edwin was taken away, he'd been in service longer than anyone, always careful, always quiet. But one morning, he simply vanished. No one said his name. No one touched his things. His boots stayed by his bed for weeks. Rumors said he had spoken aloud in his sleep. You started sleeping with a rag over your mouth after that. So now, when someone says something scandalous within earshot, you simply breathe slower. When a courtier flirts too boldly or a noble shouts too loud, you blink and return to polishing the same spoon over and over again. Because forgetting isn't just about safety. It's survival. You are not a witness. You are a silence with a spine. Ah, the sweet moment of recognition. The king, in an uncharacteristically cheerful mood, waves you forward after morning prayers. He's in one of those rare post-feast humors where everything seems amusing, including you. "You've served well," he says. "Take this." He hands you a deep green velvet doublet, trimmed with gold thread. It's magnificent. It's absurdly heavy. It probably costs more than your father's entire cottage. You're stunned. People are watching. Nobles, pages, even a few ladies in waiting glance your way with polite envy. It should feel like the best moment of your life, but it doesn't, because you know what comes next. First, gratitude. You're expected to offer a gift in return, as custom dictates. Something symbolic, sure, but not cheap. A fine wax seal, a rare scent, maybe a small, engraved silver token. The kind of item you most certainly cannot afford. Second, maintenance. That doublet, it must be cleaned, brushed, aired, folded, and worn properly on feast days. If you're seen in it looking even slightly disheveled, it reflects poorly on the king's generosity. Suddenly, his taste is being questioned because your sleeve has a wrinkle. Third, visibility. You're now the man who received a royal gift. Eyes are on you, which sounds flattering, but in court life, it's more like being a deer surrounded by hunters who also happen to be extremely good at gossip. Courtier A whispers that you bribed your way into the king's favor. Courtier B says you flirted with the queen's maid and she spoke well of you. Courtier C claims they saw you drop the doublet on the floor once. And none of these things even have to be true. There was a boy once, Gareth, quiet, always bowing too often, who received a jeweled dagger from the king after a successful hunting trip. Within a month, someone accused him of selling court secrets to the French. The dagger vanished. So did Gareth. Historians still debate whether royal servants truly had social mobility, or whether it was just the illusion of reward. One moment you're being applauded in the Great Hall, the next you're back to sweeping ashes while everyone pretends you never existed, but back to you and your glorious doublet. A week after receiving it, you're summoned to help carry a royal trunk on a rainy morning. You're in a hurry, forget to change out of the green velvet. Mud splashes on the hem. A noblewoman gasps. You scrub it clean yourself, with freezing well water and a cake of harsh soap, hands raw and bleeding by nightfall. And still, you're summoned the next morning, not to be punished, but to be told, coolly, that the king noticed your neglect. You're instructed to pay a tailor to freshen the doublet. That costs nearly half a year's savings. You were rewarded. And now, you're broke. You begin to notice a pattern. Royal gifts are never free. They're status traps, glittering obligations dressed as honor. The wine? You must host others and share it. The ring? People will ask what favors you had to trade for it. The gold coin? Spend it, and you're ungrateful. Save it, and you're greedy. It's better, you realize, to go unnoticed. To be competent, invisible, and never particularly interesting to a night, you fold the doublet carefully, wrapping it in cloth. You hide it beneath your cot, between two mothballs and a letter you've never sent. A letter to yourself, reminding you, asterisk, never stand too close to the throne. You'll only get stained, asterisk. It starts with a whisper, not a dramatic dismissal, no royal edict, just a shift in the air. Someone new is standing in your usual spot during the morning procession. A younger lad, smoother skin, brighter eyes. He bows deeper than you do, smiles just the right amount. You don't know his name, but he seems to know yours. That's how you know your time is up. No one tells you directly. They never do. You're not being fired. Don't flatter yourself. You're being replaced. Gently nudged to the side like a worn cushion that no longer holds its shape. The king no longer looks your way. His new favorite laughs louder. Carries himself like he belongs. Maybe he does. Or maybe he'll be gone just as quietly in a few years. The Tudor court eats its own. You don't get a ceremony. No farewell feast. No handshake in the corridor. Just fewer assignments. Then none at all. Your last job is folding linen in the back of the laundry rooms. The same kind you once handled with royal gloves. But this time, no one watches. No one cares. Eventually, your meals are served cold. Your quarters are moved from the inner court to the outer wing, closer to the stables than the palace. Your name is removed from the attendance rolls. You're given a small pouch of coins and a nod from a clerk you've never spoken to. That's it. You walk out the gates without a title, without a horse, without even a proper cloak. It's raining, naturally, and the guards don't ask where you're going, because it's not their job to remember who used to matter. You pass through the same courtyard where you once knelt with a goblet in front of the queen, the same hallway where you caught a glimpse of the king's temper and lived to tell no one about it, and now you're no one again. You think, maybe I'll go home, but you haven't seen home in years, and the people there probably think you've turned into a duke by now. Let them believe it. You could try to get a position in another noble household, or work for a merchant, or become one of those elderly men who tells wild tales about the king's toenail fungus for a mug of ale and a stale heel of bread. Historians debate what happened to former royal servants. Some went on to minor positions. Some joined the clergy. Some drank themselves into legend. And some just disappeared in a one collapse when you leave. No one tells stories about the servant who stood behind the throne for 15 years and never once let the candle drip on the king's coat. That's not history. That's just labor. And yet, as you walk toward the edge of London, with only the weight of your memories and a pair of worn-out boots, you realize something strange. You remember everything. Not just the ceremonies and the punishments, but the quiet moments too. The day the queen asked your opinion on a flower arrangement. The time you carried a falcon through the fog, and it perched on your shoulder like a crown. The joke the king told that made you laugh so hard you forgot who you were for a second. They won't write ballads about you. But for a while, you lived in the center of history, even if history pretends you weren't there. And somehow, that's enough. You've made it through the palace. The bells have quieted. The candles are out. There's no more silk to press, no more footsteps to follow, no more curt bows to hold until your spine aches. It's just you now, and the slow hush of your breath settling into something softer. The marble halls of the Tudor court are far behind. You don't have to listen anymore. You don't have to serve. You don't even have to remember. Let it all fall away. Maybe, in this moment, you're not a forgotten servant or a tired soul. Maybe you're just a quiet dream drifting gently through time. So go ahead, close your eyes. Let the past dissolve. Let the velvet fade. Let the stars take you somewhere quieter. Sleep well, loyal one.